Okay, so we are going to make an engineered design for this dress. First, we made the pattern in CLO, and then we file snapshot 2D patterns to get the pattern back to Illustrator or Photoshop. On here, you can choose from various settings, and when it says tabloid, that's literally just this imaginary layout in the background that you could use to estimate how many pieces of paper it would take to stick it together. But it's not relevant for this process. So I like to shut off like as many lines as possible because like all the extra lines when you bring it into Illustrator are kind of annoying sometimes. And then we can choose save. And I prefer to save it as a PDF, especially if I'm bringing it into Illustrator. If you're bringing it into Photoshop, a JPEG or a PNG, which would have a transparent background, might be preferable. But for Illustrator, the flexibility of being able to use the vectors is nice. So we save it as a PDF. And then I'll save it as t-shirt dress pattern. And I've already saved an example in there. So I will save over that. And inch is good, 100% is good, and we can hit OK. And then back in Illustrator, we're going to make a new file that is a letter size, any size document, doesn't matter actually. And we are going to go to File, Place on this new document and place the PDF that we just saved. So place and OK and click. And then we've got, I'm going to use my artboard tool, and we're going to make an artboard that is just bigger than this artwork. And you can see that this artwork has come in through File Place at the true to size scale. Right now, it's not like editable vectors. So if you want to use the vectors, you don't have to, but if you want to use the vectors, you could choose embed and then ungroup it. And then for every single pattern piece, you need to click it and right click and choose release clipping mask. So click right on the text. So I'm left clicking main click and then right click and release clipping mask. So I'm main clicking and then right clicking and release clipping mask. Main click, right click, release clipping mask for each of them. And then all of these would be editable vectors. So like if you had a pattern or a textile design or anything that you wanted to fill those with, you could do that. For example, if we had a star that's filled with yellow, and we made this into a pattern, object pattern make, and it's saying it's added to the swatches panel, and there it is. Let's make it a half drop for fun, and we can hit done. Then we could select these pattern pieces. Sometimes they seem to want to be released from the clipping mask twice, but not every time, so I can't say that for sure. And you could fill this with that pattern. So you could do something like that with the vectors, which is nice. So yeah, any type of artwork you could fill in here. You could make a new layer and lock your pattern layer and then fill artwork beneath it. So I downloaded this picture of some flames and we could put those flames underneath it. What's nice about them being vectors as well is you can change their fill and stroke. So we could make it have no fill and have like a white stroke to contrast on this particular background and have it be thicker. So I do like that it's customizable. And then I have already done all this work though. I made an engineered pattern. So ta-da. Do you guys have any questions on the process of bringing the stuff from CLO to Illustrator? Most of you have done that. I'm just trying to be thorough for this recording. And then if we go to file, first off, we want to shut off our guidelines. Because otherwise they could end up in the design and we could have like a white line in this case, or a black line if it was black around the text, or around the patterns, excuse me, in CLO. So we'll shut those off. And actually, I want that to like not, there was like a white line there. Oh, I guess I'm gonna let that bother me. I don't think it's real. It's not a real white line. That's fake. So we can go to File, Export, Export As. So this is your stuff, Lindsay, from here on out. We're going to File, Export, Export As, and we're saving this as a JPEG. And this JPEG should only be 72 pixels per inch. So on the next page, we're going to tell it that. On this page, we're going to choose Use Artboards in case there's anything else around the outside edge. And we can choose Export. Yeah, Textile Design. Export. And for the resolution, we're just going to leave it on 72 pixels per inch. Higher than that, and it seems like the CLO on the school computers at least does not run well with bigger, like with really large files that are bigger than 72 pixels per inch. And these are only ever going to be shown on the screen in this case, so that's fine. If you were exporting something to be printed, you would probably want it to be a higher resolution than that, but for CLO, this is fine. And we can hit OK. And then that's saving, and we can bring it back to CLO. So back in CLO, this is where I feel like I get confused in the past because there's lots of like textile design buttons here, like texture repeat buttons that are very tempting. But for an engineered pattern, we want to have, we just want to load in the textile design, and it seems like these are a bit more complicated than that. They're more like using AI to make a repeat, and that's not what we need. We want to have control. So instead, you choose the fabric that's applied to your garments. So I've clicked on the fabric in my fabric panel, and then down where it says base color map. So this is kind of near the top of the property editor when I've selected my fabric. And it's underneath base color, which is underneath material. So material, base color map. And then we click on the 3 dots and we choose open texture editor. This is the most reliable way I've found to do this anyway. So 3 dots, open texture editor. And then sometimes this takes a second to load. It looks like because this was blank, it loaded in here easily. So we can choose add. And then we can choose that textile design JPEG that I just did and open. So add, we chose that, and now it's loading in and it will appear here momentarily. It's already set to 72 pixels per inch. If this were a higher resolution, you could change it there. That would be how you would do that. So this does look like it's loaded in at the correct scale. The placement is not correct, but that is fine. And we are going to choose apply and close, and that's going to close the texture editor. So apply and close. And that takes a second. And then we are going to, once it's done, yes, we are going to switch from simulation to print layout. And this is how we're going to control the placement of the the placement of the print on the garment. So simulation print layout in this like window switcher. Zoom out, and then now we have a back and a front visible. So you can faintly see the repeat all throughout. And then this is a stack of all of your pattern pieces here, and you just have to place them on the garments. So that is one side, that is the other side. If you place them to the right, more fabric will appear. And if you wanted to, you could tell it that this is like 300 inches wide, and then your roll of fabric would fill up the whole graphic. So that's your roll, it's ginormous. And then we can place everything else as needed. So these are the neck collars pieces. And yeah, I think that's all good. We just place those. And then these I reversed it. So I was like trying to get them to line up on either side just through reverse. So it would kind of line up side to side, like so together. So I'm kind of guesstimating that where it goes off here, it comes on over there, etc. So then we can switch back from print layout to simulation, and we see the dress is complete. So if we hit simulate, we could open it up and We can always refine it further on print layout. And you can have the, yeah, you can pop out these panels. Click and drag. Yeah, okay, yeah, you click this button to pop it out. And then I can highlight this section blue and pop it back in there. And then we would be able to see, like, if I needed to get this seam aligned perfectly, I could like adjust until it was aligned perfectly. So you can see the changes in real time. All right, so then you could take renderings, you could pose her, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to put that in another recording. So those will be 2 separate videos. But do you guys have any questions on getting the graphic on there right now? Okay, so let's stop share. Goodbye, internet.